Hello and welcome to this Moneycontrol interview. We are in the offices of the National Payments Corporation of India, or NPCI, the umbrella body that's tasked with operating and managing all kinds of retail payment systems, from UPI to IMPS to RuPay cards. Think all these terms, and NPCI is the word that comes to your mind. And we're in conversation with the NPCI top boss, Dilip Asbe, who has played a vital role in the last 14 years in India's digital payments journey. Thank you very much, Dilip, for joining us on Moneycontrol. It's rare to get you for a sit-down interview. You're always in a hurry, from solving one issue to the other. But thank you very much. It's been quite a pivotal year for NPCI. Your numbers just came out, hugely profitable, huge growth in revenue. And we've also seen UPI going global. It's sort of become the global ambassador for India when it comes to digital payments. Take us through the year that was. What can we expect 2025, 2026?
I think when we look at the year, we look at GFF as a very prominent...
the Global Fintech
The Global Fintech Festival as a very prominent point for us. This year none other than Prime Minister came for that event, and it has been really taken the event to the different scale. But overall perspective, we look at some launches in GFF. When you look at some of the innovation things, what we have launched, like the UPI delegate payments, UPI Circle, the Bharat Bill Pay launched the B2B platform. So variety of things, we kind of plan our year from an innovation cycle standpoint. Mostly the GFF is a landmark what we look at. Other than that, I think when we look at some of the other features, payment systems, the growth has been phenomenal, as you're rightly saying. And thank you for coming to Bombay also. Rare to get you in Mumbai. You're from Bangalore. But I think it's good. It's a great progress now. A lot more to be done, but we are in the journey.
Right. We did a story a few days ago on how August was a landmark month for you, because on 2 days in August, I think UPI crossed 500 million transactions a day, which was a huge landmark. And you have told us in the past that, by 2026, you're aiming for 1 billion transactions a day. Do you think you'll move that target forward? Where do you see these numbers?
In fact, last few days I've seen some of the numbers which are going very close to 550 also. So we have seen some of the daily numbers.
That's possibly because of the festive
seasons coming up. So normally we see the peak on the festive season. See, Chandra, I don't think we have a specific target to get the number at which month, right? Because see, from an overall perspective, the UPI ecosystem is already set, and they are doing the transaction. I think the job of the NPCI and the ecosystem to ensure that the customer experience and the what you call the network is available, right? That's the effort. At this scale, when we look at daily UPI process about 10 to 15 billion APIs on a daily basis with the ecosystem. So I think our effort is only that. Apart from that, I think the economy is growing, the people are doing the transaction, the network effects are kicking in, and I think the people are getting added back to UPI. And I think it's a great story. But when we look at the overall the country target, right, the country's potential is much higher. I've always spoken about it.
Right. Dilip, since you mentioned GFF, I remember Kunal Shah of Cred at GFF saying that, he tells his product team to just look at NPCI, and that's what dictates the product roadmap for them. And I remember Amrish Rao also tweeting that, people come to GFF, they realize NPCI has already innovated everything and they go back. Take us through the product and technology roadmap. What kind of tech team have you built here at NPCI, which is able to anticipate user needs very well? And some of these products go on and become blockbuster products, right? I think from UPI Lite to the features on UPI to the way you've improvised on the RuPay cards, the penetration that it's seen. What kind of tech team have you built?
No, first of all, don't take these founders very seriously. They keep printing a lot of things. So, but I think the NPCI's role, as what defined by RBI, is we play a central platform role, right? Like earlier we used to call it as a clearinghouse, but now with this whole innovation, the change of tech and the new use cases, what you see, it becomes like a more centralized platform. The consumer side play and the merchant side play is fully available back to the ecosystem to play on, right? So our role is very much restricted to back what we do from a central infra perspective. Now, when you look at, when, of course, when the NPCI like us institution was starting off by RBI, the objective was to create the institute which has a innovation as an edge, because 1.4 billion population, everybody has very diverse needs compared to the Western markets, and and thanks to Mr. Hutta, I've been talking about it. Innovation is part of our DNA, right? And I think we should do more in that sense. But we have seen and we have built the NPCI, and thanks to all the leaders who have joined NPCI and being with NPCI for a long period, in a way that, we kind of look at how we are able to add our value to the ecosystem, and on a continuous basis, we kind of provide that value to the ecosystem. We enhance that value to the ecosystem because, see, in the ever-changing world, you create something, and if you don't evolve it, right, if you don't enhance it, right, the value diminishes over the period. And it's like a very similar to the efficiency game versus the opportunity game. And while NPCI has to be efficient, we have paid our attention to opportunity. And again, the regulator and the government has been very supportive of this innovation. They and working with the regulator adds a lot of value to us, right? Because while we are being fairly tech focused and innovation focused, and I think the working with the RBI to helps us to make it a well regulated system, right? Which is because payment system, the trust of the public, the safety and security of the system is paramount, right? In that sense, so it's a kind of a game played together is the way I look at it. While of course NPCI and end up in getting a lot of credit, but I think it's a ecosystem and everybody's credit that NPCI is where it is today.
Right, but is it hard for you to attract tech talent because you have to compete with fintechs which pay high salaries? They also give ESOPs. So what is your pitch to recruit people? And you have a fairly large tech team, right?
Yeah, we are about. No. We have 3 centers now. We have one in Bombay, one in Hyderabad, and Chennai. When you, of course, it is little difficult to attract the talent, looking at the market salaries of the other competition, what they are able to provide. But we kind of use our value proposition is put up in 3 parts, to the employees. We call it EVP. And one is the scale, right? The scale in terms of, the opportunity and impact, what you can make back, population scale, which you may not get it in every other institution. The second is the whole complexity and opportunity to learn what NPCI provides. If you look at, we learn large AI practice, the blockchain practice, and the last and not the least is the pride for building something for the nation, right? So this is our value proposition, and we try to sell it to every engineer, right? And see that whether we are able to get the best of the talent.
Right. Dilip, how much are you using AI now in product development, in operations? Do you think it can be a game changer in financial services? Because what do you make of this whole thrust that we are seeing on AI worldwide?
So of course it's going to we have such a large data, and to make sense of that data, AI is the only way to make the value out of that data. And we use AI for the risk management in a big way, right? And whether it's a fraud management, some of the advisory on AML, the mule accounts, and variety of things. Of course it's purely recommendatory in nature, because we don't have full data of the customer, which only banks have. But we have built the models, all in-house done, Chandra, and we have a large practice now, over about 200 people working in the AI and data science to kind of drive that value out. And we do some of the transaction, we do the real-time declines, so we give the score back to the bank. Bank takes the combined decision based on their intelligence with NPCI intelligence. So large AI practice, and I think the way I believe the change of technology is going up. We are hoping to use AI more and more, right? For example, some of the code review and some of the software assisting the software development process.
Right. Dilip, with respect to UPI going global, will this be a continuing trend? How many more countries can we expect UPI in the next year? I think it's already available in a dozen countries.
So there are two parts. One is the cross-border transactions, and second is the country using the UPI or RuPay for their domestic usage. See, this is a long-term game, right? So I don't think even within NPCI or at the RBI government level, we expect very short or quick results, right? Because any country wants to decide the domestic payment system. It takes about 12 to 18 months for them to even make a decision that what is the technology you want to use. And second is the other part which our NPCI international team is doing is the cross-border payments. So we have now almost all neighboring countries, we have the pipes in place, right? So whether it's Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bhutan, Bangladesh is in progress now, and we also have it with UAE, Singapore, and you're right, about 10 countries we may have started the connection for the cross-border transaction, and about 5 or 6 countries are in the global UPI or RuPay implementation process, which means that they're going to use it, they're going to name it something else, but they're going to use it for their own sovereign domestic payments functions.
Do you see RuPay becoming a dominant international card network like MasterCard and Visa?
Maybe the third, this question would have been about 15, 20 years back, would have made a lot of sense, right? Because that is the time where the physical infra valued more than the digital infra, right? But at this moment, right, I think the RuPay card with the global acceptance is the way we have positioned it, right? Because ensuring that all the POS terminals, ATMs in the world getting the RuPay acceptance, right? In that sense, is going to be very on its own, right? It's going to be very expensive. So we have relied back on a partnership with Discover, JCB, right, to get that acceptance for RuPay. So it's a domestic card scheme with the international acceptance.
Right. Dilip, if I look at how NPCI originally...
But I would rather think to look at UPI to kind of come up to that level, because I think it's more a modern and the state of the art infra.
Right. Dilip, from inception to now, the way NPCI has evolved, I think you've now also hived off subsidiaries, whether it's PPPS,
we have 3 subsidiaries
Bhim,
now.
and international, right?
Yeah.
So what's the overall vision for NPCI over the next few years? Do you expect these subsidiaries, will you hive them off at some point? What's your outlook? Because NPCI by itself is a non-profit, but a very high revenue generating, I think 3,000 crore revenue, 1,000 rupees profit. What plans do you have for these 3 subsidiaries?
So I think we have been working under the direction of RBI and NPCI board, and at this stage, I don't know really what is the future in terms of hiving off or those kind of things. But at this stage, we want to make it big. I think NPCI international, right? Get into as many countries as possible. Try to see whether as the government and RBI's initiative with the other governments and central banks, that whether India's public good can be the public good for the world, right? And the second part is the BBPS. BBPS has been also doing extremely well. All the bill payment. It's one of we don't speak much about it, but I don't think there are platforms like BBPS globally as well. Like when we speak a lot about UPI, but globally, the interoperable bill payment is not a big concept, right? And that platform also can give a lot of value back to the ecosystem and back to the country. They've launched recently the BBPS and some of the other B2B platform and some of the other things. Again, those kind of things do not exist globally anywhere. Very few examples which I have seen personally. And the last but not the least is Bhim is the new kid on the block. When we looked at Bhim, we looked at Bhim as as a starter app, right? New functionalities and those kind, more like a go-to-market strategy for all the new features of UPI. But we need a alternative in terms of a stable app or a more trusted app, and so the RBI and the board has decided to look at Bhim as a separate subsidiary and more focused approach, because NPCI within NPCI, how much attention we would be able to pay to Bhim, and that's where it has been hived off as a separate subsidiary. And I think next year or two you would see a really a good hard competing app in the market.
So will we see this continue to happen when something gains sizable sum, or when you want something to become an outsized outcome, you will kind of hive it off into a separate subsidiary, back it with cash? What other opportunities do you see within NPCI to do this? Like, what else can be hived off into a subsidiary at this stage?
So when I look at the Bhim, for example, right? Today the Bhim needs investments, right? Today, whether it's a technology, whether it's a lot of marketing, the building up the visibility or creating a brand, right? So I think, and that's where it needs huge focus, right? While NPCI, we are busy in doing so many other things, building up the centralized platform. It's a completely different mindset. So even from a skill set standpoint, Chandra, it needs a very different skill set, and which is where we got the people from the market. Some of the internally also people moved back to Bhim, but we got Lalita, we got Rahul Handa, we got some of the other people back from the market, so that they have the right expertise and experience to run the app. So I don't know what could be scalable, but anything that needs a separate focus, which is not our core strength, maybe you would see that as a hived off entity from NPCI.
What do you make of criticism that this is a conflict of interest for NPCI, that you're operating the rails and you're backing a separate Bhim UPI app with an @UPI handle? From what we understand, your marketing expenses for Bhim is to the tune of 300 crores. I don't know if that's an official number, but what do you make of it? I mean, this is something that we have heard privately from banks, that, how is NPCI doing this?
I thought banks wanted, I don't know, but banks are on our board and the banks wanted Bhim to grow. I don't know which banks are telling you that, but okay, but look, I think...
You don't think it's a conflict of interest?
Oh, no, not at all. I think the Bhim will help to expand the ecosystem. Bhim will help to get more features back into the market. And at the same time, we'll have to look at Bhim as a little separate initiative than the commercial institutions, right? In that sense, so Bhim is country's own app, right? In that sense, Prime Minister launched that app, right? So I think it will be totally incorrect to look at Bhim in the lines of other commercial app. Of course, NPCI has floated the entity, and that entity will drive to and work hard to make Bhim popular. But it's our own app. It's NPCI. It's an entity created by the ecosystem, very well regulated by RBI, right? So in that sense, if the banks in the country have ownership of NPCI, they have ownership of Bhim as well. In that sense, so banks are the main stakeholders for the Bhim app, and I think whatever our interaction have been, they have been very positive.
But the third-party apps are okay with this arrangement, the TEEP apps?
We don't need to ask them, right? I'm just saying that, we don't need to ask them to drive the national initiatives, right?
Dilip,
whatever is good in the national initiative, NPCI, under the guidance of the government and RBI, NPCI will continue to drive. Maybe.
But is this a way to kind of counter the duopoly from, Google and PhonePe, because they still continue to dominate digital payments, 87% UPI market share, irrespective of more players entering the market. In the last few months, you have had Flipkart and Navi.
We have seen Navi,
well.
Cred also.
Cred is also going well, but it's still incremental. They haven't been able to shake off the dominance.
I get that.
Plus, you've had Paytm this year, with PPPS going away. That's only added to PhonePe.
Unfortunately, Paytm also went into trouble. Yeah, but look, I'm saying that okay, let me just rewind this back. See, I think the COVID and, let's take an example of this, the revenue model on UPI, right? And that kind of dried off the funnel of new player entering into the market, right? I think the 2 years, 3 years, we saw that. But if you look at it last 1 year, right, we have seen a great interest by the some of the players. We have seen the highest number of, in fact, almost like a 50 new TPAPs wants to enter the market, right? So the new TPAPs coming in, the existing TPAPs are stepping up some sort of investments.
So then why do you need Bhim?
Okay, let me just first complete. Paytm also has now registered as a TPAP, and actually when you look at the Paytm, when you look at Navi, Flipkart, and some of the other players, I strongly believe that they will be able to create a very strong kind of alternative or option back to the consumers to use the UPI. So nobody needs to kind of work with only two apps, but there are multiple apps available. Right. See, look, the Bhim is country's own app, right? So I look at it Bhim as a national infra or a DPI, so-called in that sense. So today when the countries are looking at UPI globalization, in fact, the Bhim also is going back as one of the apps to be given back to that country, so that country can operate a Bhim app of their own, right? So I don't look at Bhim as a competition or a commercial alternative to this app, but obviously our effort is going to be that Bhim is going to be the popular or the viable alternative back to the citizen if they want to use that.
Right, Dilip, why do you think smaller apps haven't managed to upstage a Google or a PhonePe? Because all of them are giving cashbacks. Navi has grown, but it's a very small base. Why or is it just the network effects that we have often seen?
Network effects have kicked in. There is no doubt about that. Network effects have kicked in, and but I still think that now that pipeline is good. Now the interest is renewed, right? Many of them will also look at credit and CL credit line on UPI.
Correct.
So I think the market will balance out, Chandra, but I think it will take some time. It will need some more time than what we earlier envisaged. But for sure, market will balance this out.
So if it's going to take some more time, is an extension inevitable?
See, I don't
December
know.
2024.
See, we will take the decision at appropriate time. But
please don't take it on December 31st and make journalists work on New Year's Eve. I hope you'll release the circular sometime.
No, it's a decision where the RBI, the government, and we'll have to work with everybody.
But you're yet to take a call on this.
The decision has not been made. That's what I can say at this stage.
Because I remember at GFF, Sameer Nigam said, I will not do an IPO till I have clarity on this.
See, it's their call. But I'm just saying that, the government, RBI and NPCI's objectives to have a more balanced market, right? And, and have a balanced market without hindering much of the growth on UPI. That's what is our objectives has been. And we'll continue to work to achieve those objectives. So I'm saying whoever feels whatever ways, right? But I'm saying that we'll have to look at national interest as a first principle in this process.
Got it. Dilip, I also want to understand, if I look at NPCI is always at the cutting edge of innovation. Even this UPI Circle product that you unveiled, the mule detection tools that you unveiled. But is there also a sense from fintechs that you're perhaps cannibalizing what their moat is? Because you've had fintechs who've based entire business models on this circle type of product, mule product, eKYC, and then NPCI comes in and introduces these products at scale. So,
I told you're taking too seriously what these guys are talking about. See, look, when you look at even the UPI circle, right? What are we doing? We are just allowing the people to interact with each other, right? Or the apps to interact with each other. So, for example, the consumers still have to onboard in either of the UPI app, right? And even if the user is on the delegatee or delegator is on different apps, they will only converse through NPCI from an interoperability perspective. We are not holding up any data. We are not creating any context inside the NPCI. The context comes from outside, right? So I think
NPCI is still an enabler.
Enabler. We are just an interoperable platform and just providing the API so that the different parties can hook up and interact with each other. That's all what we do. I think maybe we have not done a good job to explaining these founders that we are only an enabler. Look at UPI credit on UPI, right? We are just a platform, right, to utilize, right? But finally, the consumer, there are banks or lenders giving the credit line or the credit card. The consumer adds it on any of the apps and consumes it on a platform or the merchants, or which is again serviced by the participants and not by NPCI directly.
Right. Coming to credit on UPI, this is something that you've been very excited about. In fact, we spoke to Zeta. It's something that they are very excited about as well. But overall, are you happy with the traction? The move to introduce an interchange fee, will that help boost numbers? Interchange percentage.
The credit has been growing. We are now. When you look at the RuPay credit cards, we have about 10% market share overall perspective, and it's growing. We are 10+% in fact now, and I strongly believe that UPI. While of course the architecture is that the customer should have availed the credit before it comes, the consumer can add it back on UPI to utilize. But I think that the full platform architecture of UPI, some of the features what we have built like autopay and the other new features, it would really be useful for us to expand the service in the market, right? So I strongly believe, and when you look at the physical play, you can go up to certain level. You need a high value customer. With UPI being connected real time, you can start with a low ticket, step up based on the repayment patterns. The UPI autopay, we have right now the limit of 15,000 rupees per transaction, but the collection is part of the whole UPI architecture. So when you're onboarding the customer, the autopay can happen in the onboarding cycle itself, right? So I think it eases out, and now it's up to the ecosystem to make use of UPI.
Right. I also wanted to understand, Dilip, in terms of MDR, I think zero MDR was declared 4 years ago by the government to improve the quantum of digital payments.
I think getting the wider acceptance.
Yeah,
the government objective was to ensure that everybody accepts UPI.
But now that we have reached that scale where UPI is crossing 500 million transactions, 550 on some days, is there a case to revisit MDR?
See, first of all, I think the misconception comes in is P2P versus P2M, right? Everybody believes that the consumer is going to get charged, right? So I think first of all, right from day zero, right from 2016 we launched, the consumer was never charged on UPI, right? For a P2P, it was only the merchant, right? But I think whether the MDR can come back has to be decided by the government in consultation with RBI. So we can only provide
there's a case for it? If they ask your opinion today, what will you say to them?
See, look, I don't think the small merchants, right, especially, and today still there is a huge, scope of, expansion possible, right? Still there are many small merchants.
Small merchants, you mean turnover of...
less than 20 lakhs. That's the way we have defined a year. Digital turnover below 20 lakhs is... So I think still the expansion scope is very high, and I don't think the MDR would come for the small merchants in that sense, right? So I think even if the MDR comes in, it is going to be only for the large merchants.
Right, but for large merchants, there is some level of MDR, right, through card transactions.
No, but that is only when there is a lending product, right? Yeah. But as far as UPI is concerned, right now there is no MDR.
But there is a case for larger...
See, I mean, that's what the industry has been advocating, right? Because, if there is a reasonable revenue back to the ecosystem, we could attract more investments. We could invest into the scalability. We could invest into the better products, right? So I think that's the industry view. But of course, it's up to RBI and government to decide.
Right. Final couple of questions. Dilip, for the next 30 billion users, right? Will the same user interface work? Will the same level of education awareness work? How will that kind of change the adoption, the usage patterns?
See, in my assessment, I don't think so. The existing practices will work. I think we need better solutions. We need better improved mechanism to get users on board. So I think today, as we speak, about 50 crore more users can come to UPI. If you look at the adult Indian population, and about 5 to 10 crore merchants is what I think is the Indian universe is in that sense. I think while the apps, while China looked at the super app culture, right?
Yeah.
Not only two apps, in a closed loop environment work, while UPI is more interoperable, thanks to RBI. But I think take an example of adult population. I saw a couple of startups providing the app for the senior citizen, which is more simplified UI, more intuitive UI, has a voice over mechanism. So I think I see some of the startups kind of working to create some differentiated experience for the different segment of the population. I saw there are some of the startups we are looking at a younger population like FamPay and some of the other startups are providing a niche solution for them. I think when we look at these kind of solutions, we will need some variations in the existing offerings to kind of reach out to them and give that solution. I think the UPI circle can be a great tool to expand the market in the next few years.
Right.
Because I think they would, if they don't want to expose the bank account, right? I'm saying they can become a secondary user and start the UPI journey, and then over the period, add the bank account on UPI.
Right. What kind of measures are you putting in place to make NPCI's tech fail safe? From a security perspective, cyber security perspective, fraud perspective, tech infra perspective.
No, this is the first. We have been closely monitored by RBI on the service assurance, if I may call so, and we have 3 sites now, and we operate from 3 data centers. We have been classified under the national critical infra now. And, in that process, we had to move to our own data centers. So we have migrated to our own data centers in Hyderabad and Chennai. And so 3 data centers continuously working in a load balancing mode. So it's a 24/7 job for us, in that sense, to ensure that everything is run. But I think the good part is, we alone having the highly resilient infra is not sufficient, right? So we need banks also. So you would see that the banks also have put in a lot of investments and infra to ensure that the whole UPI chain is resilient. But of course, it needs a lot of work from our side, from the ecosystem side, to keep the lights on 24/7.
Right. What next for Dilip Asbe? You've been at NPCI first, I remember, as COO for, a decade. And
No, 3 years.
COO.
3 years.
And
so I'm here for last 15 years
15
now,
years. You've not been tempted to, start up a fintech or join a big tech, because I'm sure those offers would have come to you.
NPCI is the fintech. That's the way I look at it. NPCI.
One of India's most profitable fintechs also.
See, okay, look, I think, when you look at, we are not for profit, right? But but at the same time, we would like to, today, if you look at NPCI, NPCI does over, 2 lakh crore settlement on a daily basis, right? So we need to have reserves. We need to create NPCI as an institution when we are participating in such a large clearing and settlement activity. From a risk management standpoint, we mandated to have some certain reserves. So I think the profits are there only to ensure that the sustainability of the organization, to reinvest back into the innovations, and it is going to give back to the society. Not going to do anything else.
But this is what keeps you excited. And it will keep you excited for the next decade.
No, I think 100 billion a month is a good enough vision. I think that's where we are working on as a team. And I think the tech revolution. I think we see the CBDC scale up now. I think the technological advancement, the policy innovation will keep us on our toes, in my assessment.
So 100 billion a month by when?
See, I don't want to put a timeline on that, but I think we want to achieve in a more sustainable way. Without compromising any safety and security, and also in a balanced way, where we see that it's a more balanced and evened out market.
Great. On that note, thank you very much for talking to Money.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.